Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining this recorded session on the job retention scheme for Make UK members. This presentation is to take you through this presentation. We've got Tim Thomas and Alice Tranter from Make UK's policy team. I should point out that for detailed guidance, including the FAQs, I would signpost you to our website, which is makeuk.org/coronavirus. That's makeuk.org/coronavirus. It's got in-depth details on the government retention scheme. So without further ado, I'll hand you over to Tim.
Thank you, Roger. Welcome to you all listening to this webinar from Make UK. So this is the latest information we have on the government's job retention scheme. So government updates to furlough guidance. There are many updates that have come out. Government published further guidance on the JRS on the 9th of April. Now this new guidance contains some important changes that affect the rules on furlough employees who are ill or are on sick leave or are shielding. So those are vulnerable groups that have been advised to stay at home. It also extends the scheme to employees who were TP transferred after the 28th of February, and there are a lot of detailed Make UK FAQs, as Roger's just signposted you, on our website, and for more information please check those out. They're on the coronavirus banner on the front page of our website. On the 8th of April, the Treasury Select Committee questioned the Treasury's Permanent Secretary on the feature of this scheme, the launch of the scheme, and the detail of the scheme. And we're expecting some more detailed HMRC guidance this week on how employers will be able to access the HMRC claim portal. So, without further ado, what is new? Well, employees who are shielding, those vulnerable employees that government has identified, shielding in line with public health guidance, or need to stay at home with someone who is shielding, well, the confirmation is they can now be furloughed. An employee doesn't need to be at risk of redundancy in order to be furloughed, so that was some new information. Employees who are currently sick, either long-term or short-term, can also be furloughed for business reasons, and that's a very wide interpretation, it seems. They cannot receive SSP, however, in addition to furlough pay. The employer cannot access the 2-week SSP rebate scheme previously announced for this category of worker. The employer should make a claim for a contribution to salary costs via the job retention scheme in the way that we previously described. So what else is new? Well, for TP transfers that took place after the 28th of February this year, the new employer can furlough the employees that have been transferred to that new entity. Employees can be furloughed where the PAYE business succession rules apply. This is where there's a change in company ownership, and previous PAYE schemes have been consolidated. The employer national insurance contributions and pension contributions that can be reclaimed must be based on the furlough salary, not the employee's normal salary. And employers must pay the payments received under the scheme that relate to pension contributions to the relevant pension scheme. Employees who have a UK immigration visa, so these are non-UK, non-EU nationals, well, they can be furloughed, as furlough grants under the scheme are not classified as accessing public funds. And those of you with a non-UK worker will know that generally there's a bar for these workers accessing public funds under the terms of their UK immigration visa. The furlough pay of employees returning from family leave after the 28th of Feb should be calculated based on their normal salary before tax, not pay that they received during that period of family leave. And as previously indicated, claims for those who have variable pay are to be calculated using the same monthly earnings from the previous year, or the average monthly earnings for the 1920 tax year, whichever is the greater. And I think at that point, I'm handing over to Alice.
Thanks, Tim. So in addition to updated guidance from HMRC, the Treasury Select Committee sat last week on Wednesday, the 8th of April, where they questioned the Treasury's Permanent Secretary on the future of the scheme and how employers can access it, and some more information surrounding that. So the Permanent Secretary clarified a few things that were still up in the air, and they are as followed. So again, when furloughed, employees must not work for the employer, but furloughed employees can definitely start alternative employment or undertake training whilst they're furloughed. HMRC also confirmed that the 28th of February this year does remain the cut-off date for workers to have been on PAYE. So if you had moved jobs after that date, unfortunately, you're not eligible for the scheme, but they did say you can access tax credits and universal credit in the meantime. As stated before, employees have to be completely furloughed for a minimum of 3 weeks. So you've got to do a consecutive block to be eligible for the scheme, and the employer cannot reduce working hours with that. HMRC are still working on statutory maternity pay calculations within the scheme, and we're expecting hopefully more detail on that soon. So further clarifications from that select committee. When they said furloughed employees can undertake training, the government is quite keen for employees to do this, to develop skills within that training programme. So if you're training and you're in a lower paid role, your furlough pay may take that employee below the national minimum wage or the national living wage. If you are training, the employer must pay that employee the national minimum wage or the national living wage. However, if you're not training and you are furloughed and your furlough pay does dip below the national minimum wage or the national living wage, then there is no obligation for the employer to top up your pay to meet that. So that's the difference between training and not training. You can rotate furloughed employees every 3 weeks. So you could furlough half the workforce for 3 weeks, take them off furlough and put the other half back on. That can be done. But again, has to be a minimum of 3 weeks. And there's no restriction on what type of work or job you can seek whilst you're furloughed, although provided it does not generate any revenue or profits for existing employer or supporting your business in any way. So new points from the Treasury Select Committee, so things we didn't know before. They've put in 4 safeguards to prevent abuse of the system and fraud. And the first one is that cut-off date. So sort of safeguards anyone putting the wrong person on PAYE after that date. So HMRC will have data on existing employees. Second one is that employees send their PAYE statements each month. So HMRC will already have the authentication credentials to check. They've also set up an employee helpline for employees to report suspected abuse of the system from their employer. And lastly, HMRC have a right to undertake checks on employers and identify those who are high risk at not conforming properly. It's 4 safeguards. So the start of the scheme, so next week, so today is 15th of April, and hopefully on Monday the 20th it will open. So this week commencing, we're hoping for guidance on how employers can compile claims and to get the correct authentication credentials. And then hopefully between next Monday, the 20th of April, and the 30th of April, employers can make their claims and payments will be due within that period. The aim for the scheme is to be quite straightforward, really easy. Employers can self-certify to avoid having to contact HMRC for help or assistance. This online system, this portal, it's open 24/7, they've created it to have a capacity of 450,000 claims an hour, and employers will be queued if there is high demand, or they can try the next day. So they've got 10 days to do this between the 20th of April and the 30th. And also employers can make a claim 14 days in advance of sending their PAYE data in order to access rebate for furloughed workers' wages sooner if needs be. Thank you very much, and I will pass back to Roger.
Thanks, Alice, and thanks very much for that to Tim and Alice for that update on the job retention screen. Just a reminder that more information can be easily accessed from the Make UK homepage on all things related to coronavirus and the impact on UK manufacturing and our members. And again, there's some contact details at the bottom of the screen there. Thank you very much.